Right now on Lone Star Politics, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick sounds the alarm for Republicans. Why he says they could lose the Texas House, the actions he wants his party to take. Plus, Texas commits $50 million towards psychedelic research. Why the state is launching its own clinical trials. And after months of hearings, meetings, and tough negotiations, it is time for voters in 3 North Texas cities to vote on DART. We're talking with the DART Board of Directors chair about what the outcome means for all 13 of the cities in the system.
So 42 short years, we've made good on the promises that we made with our voters back in 1983. And so for now, it's to figure out what the next 42 years looks like.
This is Lone Star Politics from NBC5 and the Dallas Morning News.
Good Sunday morning. I'm Phil Prazen from NBC5.
And I'm Gromer Jeffers, political writer with the Dallas Morning News. Early voting starts tomorrow for dozens of local city council, school board trustee, and bond programs. Election day is May 2nd. We'll have more on what's at stake coming up.
First this morning, an executive order encouraging research into the psychedelic drug ibogaine from President Trump. Ibogaine is not FDA approved, but in some countries it is used to treat addiction to opioids, depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder in veterans. Texas is taking action as well. In a recent joint statement, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and Speaker of the House Dustin Burrows announced $50 million passed by the legislature for ibogaine research through a new state-run program. The statement said in part, quote, "We intend to fully fund this program and will work in partnership with our great medical research teams in Texas to conduct the research." The Texas Health and Human Services Commission reported that no drug company met the requirements to be part of the program for clinical trials.
Amber Capone is the co-founder and CEO of Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions.
She spoke to us about how far their effort has come and the challenges still ahead.
What is ibogaine, and what are the experiences that you and your family have seen with it?
Ibogaine is derived from the root bark of a shrub grown in West Africa. And ibogaine is one of many alkaloids that tends to have the highest potency. It's been used ceremoniously for centuries, and more recently to treat addiction, primarily opioid addiction, at clinics abroad. It is a Schedule I substance, not available in the United States. And so as my husband transitioned out of the military and life became very difficult, the only option for him to receive this treatment that we had heard amazing things about was to send him to Mexico. So it is available primarily in Mexico right now.
What are you hoping to do on the federal level, and how challenging has that been?
So, of course, the states are putting upward pressure on the federal government to do something as well. And I believe that Texas sent a very clear message that we need to look into alternative, effective treatments for our veterans, and the federal government seems to be taking notice. I'm very hopeful that President Trump will soon sign an executive order that could start research on ibogaine or unlock funding for research. Right now, it's practically impossible to do that research because of ibogaine's Schedule I status, which means it has no medical value and high potential for addiction or abuse. We believe it's 180 degrees opposite that.
It seems like once something is on Schedule I, and you saw it with marijuana, quite frankly, it's just difficult to get people to look at the situation in a different way. How frustrating has that been?
It has been incredibly frustrating to not only fight the stigma that's associated with these types of treatments, but to fight the system. Research is practically impossible, yet it holds so much promise. To date, our organization, VETS, has provided grant funding for 1,300 individuals, roughly, to leave the United States in pursuit of ibogaine therapy. And the results have been remarkable. We've seen it anecdotally for years across hundreds and hundreds of individuals. And we've also validated it through research. We had a collaborative study with Stanford University, and the lead researcher on that study said he had never seen a compound do anything like this. It was the most sophisticated molecule on the planet.
So you're not where you want to be now, obviously. So what does someone who needs help and can be helped by this compound, what do they do? What's your advice?
My advice for anyone interested in ibogaine would be to really do your research. And our website, vetsolutions.org, has a free e-course available. It's geared towards veterans, but anyone could benefit. We go into all psychedelic compounds, but ibogaine is one of them. And there are clinics operating safely abroad, and there are clinics operating not so safely abroad. And so the due diligence process is really important. But I think what's even more important than that is holding on to a shred of hope that there could be something out there that is not only effective for PTSD, it's very effective for addiction, potentially traumatic brain injury, which is why the research is so necessary. So until it's available here, I would just exercise extreme caution in going abroad and doing a lot of research.
Just to double click on something you said a little bit ago about how there are good clinics out there and then there are troublesome clinics out there. Getting the state and the federal government to kind of get more involved in this, will that help, professionalize the industry, so to speak?
It absolutely will professionalize the industry. Right now, we don't even know mechanisms of action because the research is lagging. And yet there are clinics that are treating patients day in and day out, both in safe and unsafe ways. We were part of a documentary that premiered on Netflix this past November called In Waves and War. We experienced over 800% increase in applications at vets the week that the film premiered. And I'm sure that the clinics abroad are experiencing that as well. So we feel an innate responsibility to say that ibogaine holds a lot of promise, but we do not know how it's working. We do not know what the indications would be that it could be effective in treating. And we certainly don't know that all of the clinics that are operating are doing so in a safe and effective way.
Gromer, these are interesting issues because they're not really partisan. There are Republicans and Democrats that both oppose this and support these kind of things.
Yeah, that's right. It's not partisan. It's more generational. Actually, I mean, there's some misconceptions about, take marijuana, for instance. It took a long time for people to get to the place that there are medicinal purposes for it. Same with this compound. And younger Democrats and Republicans are probably more receptive to studying this than older ones, unless you're like in the military or you're an athlete or somebody who suffers from trauma-related situations. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out because we talked about it earlier. Once you are that Schedule 1, once you get that reputation on that list,
it takes decades to change.
It's hard to come off of it, and it takes a bipartisan effort to get you off of it.
Coming up, voting on the future of DART in 3 North Texas cities. That starts tomorrow. What the election outcome could mean for all 13 cities in the system next. And then, the dollars are adding up in the heated race for U.S. Senate. What the money means, Gromer, ahead on Lone Star Politics. A major issue on the May 2nd ballot in 3 North Texas cities, the future of the Dallas area rapid transit system. Early voting starts tomorrow. DART serves 13 North Texas cities. A handful of cities considered leaving this year and even scheduled elections to allow residents to decide if their city should get out. Following public hearings and negotiations, just 3 cities, Addison, University Park, and Highland Park, are moving forward with that vote. Addison is especially interesting because for a city of just over 17,000, ridership on just DART buses is well over 200,000 according to the Dallas Morning News. And there's the newly built Silver Line. The $2 billion commuter train line opened last fall and runs through Addison's culinary and entertainment district. And on the Silver Line, it takes just 30 minutes to get from Addison to the DFW airport. Randall Bryant, chair of the DART Board of Directors, joins us this morning. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get to specific elections, some major changes happened within the DART when it comes to governance and money for the different cities. What happened there?
Well, I think there have been conversations that have been going on for some years, actually, around the governance, the funding, and then the services. Those have been the three pillars of conversations that we've been having with our member cities, our state lawmakers, and our stakeholders here in the North Texas region. And there's been a lot of concerns about how the governance, the board makeup has been designed, how it's equitably benefiting the cities that we serve.
Dallas had too much power for some.
Well, Dallas had
other cities.
Dallas had members appointed to the board that were equal to the population that we had, and this would be now the third design or redesign of the governance structure that we hopefully will go down to Austin together, be unified, and support as one voice.
And this redesign probably helped you stop the revolution, more cities having elections, right?
It did that, but it also creates a pathway for new cities to come in when they see that they have an opportunity to have an actual person on the board representing their interests. It also creates the pathway for new cities as well.
So how important is it for these three cities to remain in DART?
It's very important for me. It's very important to our board and our staff, and of course the riders that depend on accessibility to these cities. And that's kind of what's missing in this moment, is that the people that depend on getting in and out of Addison and Highland Park and University Park may not actually be the decision makers on the election outcomes. And so for those that need to access for jobs or for medical appointments or whatever the case may be, their voices are not being heard, but those are the voices that we're standing up for.
North Texas it's a car region, right? I mean, cars dominate. How do you change that? How do you get people to see or take the long view that with the population growth, maybe you do need, a nice transportation system?
Well, the term that I use is one less car. One less car in whether you are transit dependent, an infrequent user of transit, or a non-user of transit, you are benefiting by the work that DART Transportation is doing on behalf of this region. One less car means your ride to work is one less car better. One less car means the commerce that's moving around, that package that needs to get to your home right before Christmas happens a little bit faster, and the air quality that we mitigate on behalf of you with a 50 passenger bus or a 250 passenger train is done on behalf of you. So that's the benefit that we're providing here at DART.
So according to the Dallas Morning News, we played before, but 200,000 people in Addison use the DART buses for sure, right. And then more in the Silver Line. In Highland Park and University Park, it's like 3,000 and 10,000 people. Not that many people use it in those cities. But Addison, this is a pretty intense issue. The mayor and many of the city council members were advised not to talk to the media by their city attorney for fearing of ethical dilemmas or complaints to the Texas Ethics Commission. Why is this such a big deal in Addison?
It's a big deal for all cities, and just for the record, I'm not advocating for or against the election itself, just to provide the facts on what the outcomes could be. And Addison is one of our most integral transit centers for the entire network. It's the access point for a lot of our suburban northern cities, as well as the new Silver Line as well. And so Addison, as you point out, has about 17,000 residents, but it's a net importer of jobs to the tune of about 100,000 new people come in and out of Addison each and every day, and a lot of them depend on DART services.
So people use DART to come in, work, then go, then leave.
Correct.
What do you think DART will look like in 20 years?
I hope that DART continues to play an integral part in the transit and transportation services across North Texas. Some communities are served by other transit authorities, and we worked well with them. We continue to work well with the COG partnership as well. And I think we need to be working more closely together to define the transit outcomes. Transit is here, and we've built the system. We've invested a lot into the system. I think there are ways that we can work with other suburban partners and there's a lot of opportunities even in the southern sector that we have not fully tapped into. Right-of-way that we own all the way to Sherman, right-of-way that we own in other parts of the Metroplex that we need to be expanding our services in.
All right. So expanding that area, the Dallas area rapid transit may be the future.
Absolutely.
Randall Bryant, Chair of the DART Board of Directors, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I don't think we're going to lose. I'm just saying there's a pathway there.
Still ahead, why one of the state's most powerful Republican leaders says the Texas House may flip. We'll talk about it next on Lone Star Politics. Tomorrow, the Dallas County Republicans will meet for the first time since the resignation of Chairman Allen West. He faced a no-confidence vote over deciding to return to countywide voting for the May 26 primary runoff election. Now, you may recall more than 12,000 voters went to the wrong polling location on March 3rd, causing confusion across the county. Chairman West texted me writing, quote, "Dallas GOP will figure it out without me. I don't have the tolerance or patience for drama and unnecessary intrigue." Meanwhile, election workers continue to plan for the May 26 runoff election with close races on both sides of the aisle. James Tallarico made an impression in fundraising while his two opponents are still battling it out. The Austin Democrat reported a record $27 million raised in the first 3 months of 2026 for his Senate bid. To give this some perspective, Colin Allred raised over $9.5 million in the first quarter of 2024, and Beto O'Rourke brought in $6.7 million in 2018. Now, on the Republican side, incumbent Senator John Cornyn, who is in a heated runoff against Attorney General Ken Paxton, remains the fundraising frontrunner there. Cornyn raised $9 million. An interesting note, Gromer, 5,000 of those dollars came from former President George W. Bush. Paxton reported just $2 million.
We have one nasty race, and I'm just going to call it for what it is, for the U.S. Senate, and it troubles me.
As president of the Texas Senate, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, he had a warning for Republicans while speaking to the Texas Public Policy Foundation, the state's most powerful conservative think tank. He believes if Republicans will have hurt feelings after the brutal campaign between Senator Cornyn and Attorney General Ken Paxton, it opens the door to Democrats winning a statewide race with James Tallarico on the top of the ticket and taking the Texas House.
So he can't get to over 50 unless Cornyn's people or Paxton's people decide to skip the race because they're mad that their guy lost. Get over it. Get over it and come together as one.
Right now, 88 Republicans sit in the Texas House alongside 62 Democrats. 13 Democrats will have to defeat sitting Republicans to take over the chamber. In response, the Republican Speaker of the House, Dustin Burrows from Lubbock, wrote, "We will not lose the Texas House. We will fight to retain every Republican seat. I look forward to the fall campaign where we get to talk about Texas prosperity under Republican leadership, and I trust the voters of Texas to continue to vote for conservative government up and down the ballot." Gromer, it's still a long shot, and the districts are gerrymandered to favor Republicans, but how serious are people taking this?
Very serious, because in midterms, the party that controls the White House takes losses. Those losses can trickle down, depends on how popular Trump is, what the economy is like. But certainly, there's a possibility that a Democratic wave, a big blue wave, can cause some problems with down ballot Republican
And
candidates.
Tallarico may be able to do it?
Well,
Question mark?
Question mark, but that money, Tallarico's money, look, we're looking at, he may have 50, 60, 70 million dollars or more before the Cornyn or Paxton get started in their race. So that's going to be significant, not just for Tallarico, but for down ballot Democrats. They're probably looking at that and saying, yeah, we like that.
And meanwhile, Republicans are still divided between Cornyn and Paxton. And you wrote in the Dallas Morning News that President Trump being on the sideline kind of is making that division worse.
Yeah, because if he picks someone, then Republicans can rally around that candidate, perhaps. If he doesn't, they're just going to fight it out, and of course those are resources that could be used for November. And the question is also, what happens if Paxton is the nominee who's not as prolific of a fundraiser as Cornyn, as we now see? How can he stand up to the maybe 150 million or so that Tallarico may have up against him?
So this is what's driving Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick being very worried.
Yes.
More worried than I've seen him recently.
Yeah, and he's not as much worried about the top as he is for down ballot candidates. Of course, the House And you can imagine the lieutenant governor doesn't want a situation where the Senate is Republican and the House is Democratic. He already has a hard enough time dealing with Republican speakers. So imagine that.
But, okay, let me be a skeptic here. We have seen all this before, right? I say this is phase one of Democrats overhyping. How serious is Texas in play this year?
Well, we have to see it, prove it. They always have to prove it.
That's all the time we have.